This video is going to be a bit less haha and a bit more serious mode. And that's because today we will be answering some pretty crazy shit. Not only will we find out what Candy Cadet's stories are trying to tell us and how they connect to the overall plot of Help Wanted 2, but we'll also figure out the true identity of Cassie's dad. And no, I'm not talking about him being Bonnie Bro. We all know that at this point. I'm talking about an even greater connection to the past lore than just being Bonnie Bro. Because not only is there a good chance that we've actually played as Cassie's dad before in a Fnaf game without realizing it, but we also may even have a full name confirmation first and last for Cassie's dad along with Cassie's official last name. So stay tuned to see how all of these answers tie together. One thing I find interesting about Help Wanted 2 is the way it presents its lore. It almost reminds me of Fnaf 6 in the way where a lot of stuff really makes sense and is really straightforward, and then a lot of other things are confusing as hell. Based on the clues we're given, it seems pretty obvious that we're playing as Cassie's dad, and that Cassie's dad is in fact the Bonnie bully from Fnaf 4. However, one lore detail that I was definitely confused about by the end of this game was the true meaning behind Candy Cadet's story. And at the moment, it seems like we have two possibilities on what Candy Cadet could have been telling us. The first idea was brought up by MatPat in his Help Wanted 2 theory. He thinks that in Candy Cadet's story, where a girl is lured into the woods, attacked by a witch, survives but with a permanent scar, and later gets older and goes to seek revenge, only to be lured away by a little boy who ends up betraying her, making her be fed to the witch after all, is one giant story parallel to Vanessa's character. And although that seems like the obvious answer, with the main character girl being Vanessa and the little boy who lures her being Gregory, who used to be under Glitchtrap's control, there's a single counter argument that makes me hesitant to fully believe his theory. A big part of Candy Cadet's story is that the reason why the girl goes back into the forest whenever she's older is because she wants revenge. Meanwhile, if Vanessa really did get out of Glitchtrap's control, permanent scar or not, she would not want to go back to Glitchtrap, even if it was for revenge. If anything, based off of her personal events and from what we can tell by her tone in the therapy tapes, she'd more likely to be scared of Glitchtrap and afraid that he'd take over again, instead of filled with revenge and anger and wanting to approach him again because of it. So I don't really think MatPat's theory on the Candy Cadet story is correct. However, there is a different YouTuber that I believe has cracked the case and figured out what is the meaning behind Candy Cadet's story. Shout out to XMonsterX for directing me towards ID's Fantasies theory about Help Wanted 2, where she instead takes Candy Cadet's story and relates it back to Cassie's dad, and the main reason he may be underneath the Pizzaplex in the first place. I swear this video isn't just me going over other YouTubers' theories. I swear we're about to get into some original stuff. ID's Fantasy compares the girl in the woods to Cassie's dad, but you might be wondering, if that's the case, what would the permanent scar that the witch gives the girl be representative of for Cassie's dad? Well, she ends up connecting him back to Jeremy from the first Fnaf Help Wanted. Tape Girl has told us that Jeremy, the original playtester for Fazbear Entertainment's first VR game, was last seen by her in a dark room with ink splatter on the floor and what seems to be a Halloween mask on the ground. Now, everybody originally assumed that this meant Jeremy, while playing Help Wanted, encountered Glitchtrap and then got driven crazy enough to slice his own face off. But now that both Ruin and Help Wanted have introduced the Vanny mask, which was presumably worn by all Fazbear technicians, it would make a lot more sense if Jeremy from the first Help Wanted, instead of that Halloween mask on the floor being his own skin, what if it was the Vanny mask? Essentially, ID's Fantasy leads all of this into the theory that we, the protagonists of Help Wanted 2, also known as Cassie's dad, are also Jeremy from the original Fnaf Help Wanted. And just like in Candy Cadet's story, where the little girl wants to go back into the forest to get revenge, we are going back into Fazbear Entertainment's territory to uncover more about Glitchtrap, ending also like Candy Cadet's story, where we end up dying by the very thing that we wanted to get revenge on. I believe that ID's Fantasy is right when it comes to this theory. So much lines up and it all really fits together nicely. Plus, up until now, this game has honestly felt more like a sequel to Security Breach than to the original Help Wanted. But this lore detail and having our protagonist be the same person as Jeremy from the first Help Wanted really brings a whole new meaning to the title Help Wanted 2. But then after I watched her theory, I began to think. For a good while now, we've just all accepted that there's been 3 separate people all named Jeremy in this series. And if ID Fantasy's theory is right, then one of those 3 Jeremys just gained a lot bigger of a role in the lore. But as a story as intertwined as Fnaf, how far of a stretch is it to say that 2 of those Jeremys may have been the same person all along? The first Jeremy we know about is the dead kid that ends up possessing Bonnie, so he's off the table. But what if the Jeremy from Help Wanted, also known as Cassie's dad, also known as the Bonnie bully from Fnaf 4, is the same person as Jeremy Fitzgerald, the Bite of 87 victim? A while back I made the theory that Chica Mask Man from the Bite of 83 would go on to be the Bite of 87 victim, and a lot of the evidence I used in that original video could apply to Bonnie bully as well, where although the Bite of 87 may not have impacted the lore too much, it instead was the end result of the bully's karma from the Bite of 83. It was their way of having their story come full circle in a sense of irony. Although I originally thought it was Chica Mask bully over Bonnie bully, mainly because I'm a strong believer that Toy Chica did the Bite of 87, and I thought it would just fit better if the kid with the Chica mask ends up being bit by Chica. But now if Mr. Fitzgerald and Bonnie bully are both named Jeremy, I think that big of a quote-unquote coincidence in and of itself could be enough evidence to deconfirm my Chica mask bully theory. It also makes sense logically if Cassie's dad was the Bite of 87 victim. MatPat made a theory a while ago saying essentially if you did get your frontal lobe bitten off, you could technically still survive. You'd just lose your sense of fear. And not only do we know for a fact that the Bite of 87 victim is still alive, Phone Guy even says it himself.
But then there was the Bite of 87. It's amazing that the human body can live without the frontal lobe.
But also if Cassie's dad did go into the Fnaf 6 location in Help Wanted 2 to seek some sort of revenge, like in Candy Cadet's story, he'd probably be doing so because he doesn't have a sense of fear. The Bite of 87 made him lose his sense of fear, and now he's not afraid to go and investigate and possibly die. Contrary to someone like Vanessa, who after experiencing the horrors of Glitch Trap probably wouldn't want to go back there. Another Fnaf YouTuber called Rytoast also came out with this theory about Cassie's dad being the Bite of 87 victim, but I never really believed him until I came up with my own proof. In Rytoast's theory, he never really mentions Jeremy from the first Help Wanted, except for just a little text pop-up on the screen, and most of the evidence he used was sort of based in the supernatural elements of this franchise, which have always been a lot vaguer and harder to theorize about. So because of that, I was taking his theory with a big grain of salt and wasn't really believing it myself. But now that I look at his theory with different proof in mind, I think he was onto something. The conclusion we've made today reveals and connects a lot together. All this means that we have played as Cassie's dad before in Fnaf 2 as Jeremy Fitzgerald, which also means that we officially have Cassie's last name, Cassie Fitzgerald. You thought the Afton family was down on their luck. Just wait till you hear the Fitzgeralds and their story about losing frontal lobes and getting lured into pizzaplexes by mimics. Let me know what you guys think about this theory down in the comments below. Thank y'all for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did enjoy, and enjoy some clips of my dog Titus running around in snow. Bye bye. Titus boy. Titus. What is it, Titus? Whoa. Titus.